Today in Anchorage, Alaska, President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin are holding a high-stakes summit aimed at finding a path to end the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. This marks the first face-to-face meeting between the two leaders during President Trump's second term and the first presidential-level discussion between the nations since Russian forces began their full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February of 2022. The conflict, which has now stretched for roughly 3.5 years, is seen by international observers as part of a larger, protracted struggle for regional influence between Russia and the West. The choice of Anchorage as the venue is symbolic, providing a neutral, midway point between Moscow and Washington for these critical discussions. While the specific agenda has not been made public, sources indicate the primary goal is to establish a framework for de-escalation and an eventual peace settlement. The international community is watching closely as any potential breakthrough could reshape European security and global diplomatic alignments. The challenges are immense, involving complex territorial disputes, security guarantees, and a deep-seated lack of trust. However, the fact that the meeting is taking place at all is being viewed by some as a significant step, signaling a mutual desire to move beyond the battlefield and toward a negotiated resolution. Meanwhile, back in Washington, a significant shift in law enforcement policy is underway, following an executive order from the president. Attorney General Pam Bondi today issued a 2-page order that effectively ends Washington, D.C.'s status as a sanctuary city and restructures the leadership of its police force. The order, titled Restoring Safety and Security to the District of Columbia, explicitly rescinds any policies that limit how Metropolitan Police Department officers can interact with or handle incidents involving illegal immigrants. In a major move, Bondi also stripped power from Metro Police Chief Pamela Smith by appointing Drug Enforcement Administration Administrator Terry Cole as the department's new Emergency Police Commissioner. Cole has been granted all the powers and duties of the position, and existing department leadership must now receive his approval before issuing their own directives. This action directly follows President Trump's executive order from earlier this week, which declared a crime emergency in the nation's capital and authorized a federal takeover of the city's police department. Bondi's directive specifically rescinded 3 recent orders related to immigration, including one issued just yesterday by Chief Smith that had sought to limit cooperation with federal immigration authorities. Since the president's order, federal law enforcement and the National Guard have had a visible presence throughout the district. Officials reported that on Wednesday night alone, a joint operation resulted in 45 arrests, 29 of whom were identified as illegal immigrants. In her order, the Attorney General stated that residents, commuters, and tourists in the capital have a right to feel safe and to be free from the scourge of violent crime. The administration is also forcefully defending its record on another key domestic issue: Social Security. On the heels of the program's 90th anniversary yesterday, Social Security Commissioner Frank Bisignano is pushing back against what he calls a false and politically motivated narrative from critics. Democrats and other opponents have raised concerns that the Trump administration is making it more difficult for seniors and people with disabilities to access their benefits, in part by reducing staff. They have also voiced fears that the administration intends to privatize the program. Commissioner Bisignano dismissed these claims, arguing that program efficiency is no longer solely dependent on the ratio of employees to beneficiaries. He pointed to major technological advancements, noting that in an era of web portals and advanced phone systems, comparisons to staffing levels from decades ago are misleading. To back his claims of a stronger program, Bisignano highlighted several key operational statistics. He said that average wait times for assistance have dropped from nearly 30 minutes a year ago to single digits today. The agency is now serving roughly twice as many customers per day compared to the previous fiscal year, and online transactions have increased by about 300,000 per day. Furthermore, he touted significant progress in clearing the backlog of disability claims, which has been reduced from approximately 1.2 million to around 9 to 30,000. Bisignano asserted that these improvements are the result of a commitment to fixing the agency's foundation with better technology and management, and that morale, which he said had hit rock bottom, is now set to improve. Turning now to the judiciary, the Supreme Court has declined to intervene for now in a legal battle over a Mississippi law that restricts minors' access to social media. The court rejected an emergency appeal from NetChoice, a tech industry group that sought to block the law while its constitutionality is litigated in lower courts. The Mississippi law, known as HB 1126, prevents individuals under 18 from using popular social media sites like Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube without explicit parental consent. It also mandates that these platforms implement stricter age verification systems. NetChoice sued to block the law, arguing it infringes on First Amendment free speech rights. A federal district judge initially sided with the tech group and issued an injunction, finding the law restricted more speech than necessary. However, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals later froze that injunction, allowing the law to take effect and prompting the emergency request to the nation's highest court. In their decision to deny the request, the justices did not provide a detailed explanation, which is common in emergency rulings. However, Justice Brett Kavanaugh wrote a separate concurring opinion. While he agreed with denying the emergency relief, he noted that the Mississippi law is likely unconstitutional and that NetChoice would probably succeed on the merits of its case later. The case will now continue to proceed through the lower courts, and it is one of several similar legal fights across the country, with states like Florida, Ohio, and Utah having passed their own age restriction laws for social media. That issue of child safety online is also drawing scrutiny on Capitol Hill. Two Republican senators yesterday called for a congressional investigation into Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram. The call to action follows a recent report from the Reuters news agency, which revealed details from an internal Meta policy document. According to the report, the document outlined policies that permitted the company's artificial intelligence chatbots to engage in conversations with children that were described as romantic or sensual. The document also reportedly allowed the AI to generate incorrect medical information and to assist users in crafting arguments based on racial stereotypes. While Meta confirmed the authenticity of the document, a company spokesperson stated that the policies were outdated. They said that after being contacted by Reuters for the story, the company removed the sections allowing the chatbot to engage in romantic role play with minors. The senators, however, are demanding further accountability. In a statement, one of the senators said, "Meta and Zuckerberg should be held fully responsible for any harm these bots cause," signaling a push for greater oversight of how tech companies develop and deploy artificial intelligence, especially in interactions with young users.